Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Indian Kitchen Abroad. I don't think Indian food is that complicated. That's probably because I grew up eating Indian food and I've been cooking from the past 6 or 7 years almost every day. Additionally, there is one other reason. It's really not complicated. If you're wondering, I'm talking about Adam Ragusea's video in which he made Chana Masala and made a comment.
Indian food is freaking complicated. And a simplified but still kind of complicated version.
Adam has the potential to reach millions of people. By saying that Indian food is complicated, I think he is scaring away many people who are interested in cooking Indian food. So I'm making this video just to tell you that it's really not complicated. I mean, sure, if you're a beginner, Indian food scares the hell out of you. But the same is true with every new skill you want to learn, at least to some extent. Indian food may seem complicated because of the spices, and timing is very important in cooking Indian food. When to add spices, how much spice do you add, how long do you caramelize the onions, it's all very important because everything adds to the flavor ultimately. So once you master these few basic things, you can cook Indian food very easily. So in this video, I'm going to talk about those basic things, and we're going to use those same basic things to make a really good Chana Masala in under 40 minutes. And if you plan slightly ahead, in less than 30 minutes. But before that, let's break down Adam's video to learn a couple of things, and he raised a few questions about Indian food. I'll try to answer them as well. Before I go any further, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not making this video to criticize Adam or his cooking skills. This video helps everyone who's cooking Indian food for the first time, hopefully. Check out Adam's channel for interesting food content. First thing to learn from Adam's video is not to burn spices. Adam made his own version of Garam Masala. It's good, but when you make Garam Masala, you toast the spices and then ground all the spices together. So there is no need to cook the spice powder again for a long time. It's redundant. And if you cook any spice powder for a longer time, it burns and sticks to the pan, which is exactly what happened in Adam's video.
Alrighty, things are browning to the point where my fond is gonna burn in with a little water.
Also, it tastes bitter. Indian food has many layers of flavor, starting with whole spices, caramelized onions, spice powders in the middle, and Garam Masala is used at the end as one other layer of flavor.
Searched. Indian food is freaking complicated. A lot of people would fry these vegetables kind of one at a time. I think you can get away with doing it all at once.
Caramelization of onions is very important for almost all the Indian curries. Cooking the onions in fat, low and slow, until they get brown is the way to pull flavor out of them. Onions have very high water content. By cooking all the vegetables together, onions start to steam in the tomato juice instead of caramelizing. So, you'll be missing out on a lot of flavor. And that's the reason we cook all the vegetables at different times. Now don't get me wrong, there is time and place for the sauce Adam made, but Chana Masala needs that caramelized onions. Missing spices. I don't want to talk about traditional spices Adam used or did not use, because every chef has his or her own recipe and every cookbook has its own recipe. No two chefs or no two cookbooks have the same recipe. And India has 28 states. Every state and its regions has its own regional cuisine. So most of the times you don't even know what is traditional. It's all subjective. But there are few spices that are very common and important. Coriander powder is missing in Adam's recipe. I mean, there is half a teaspoon of coriander seeds in the Garam Masala he made, but it's not sufficient, especially when compared to the other spices he used. I was going through a few comments of Adam's video, and he mentioned that he don't know what cooking until the oil releases mean. It's a common statement you'll find in many Indian cookbooks and food videos. When you cook the sauce, moisture from all the vegetables evaporate and oil starts to float on the surface. This is used as an indication to move to the next step in cooking. If you are a beginner, you may find it difficult to identify. So one other method is this. Do a clean stroke with a spatula like this And when you do this, there should not be any trail of water. And when you let it sit for a few seconds off the heat, you will see the fat releasing from the boundaries. It is similar to the concept of sauce coating the back of a spoon. If you don't cook until the oil releases, you will see a big difference in consistency of the sauce. The one on your left is cooked until the oil floats, whereas the one on your right, well, is not. I'm sure you can see the difference in consistency. The sauce that's cooked in a right way is more cohesive when compared to the other one. Texture is going to be completely different. Trust me, even this adds to the flavor.
Bay leaves if you have them. Maybe they'll actually do something. I doubt it. I love those whole green cardamom pods floating around in there. I just eat them. Are you supposed to eat them? I always have.
Bay leaves do have flavor. It has more of a menthol and lightly bitter flavor. It's extensively used in rice dishes like biryanis. In curries like this, other spices may overpower bay leaves. And green cardamom is completely edible, including the outer shell. But it's too fibrous, so eat at your own risk.
You could use some oil again, but I got a jar of ghee from the Indo pack. The rich flavor of that really shines through in this dish.
I may get crucified for this, but I'm gonna say this. Ghee is overrated. Now don't get me wrong, ghee is good, it's tasty, adds flavor and all of that. I buy ghee, I have ghee. But I don't use it to make everyday food because it's too expensive. This 16-ounce jar of ghee costs about $13, whereas the same quantity of butter costs less than half of that. I use it only for desserts. My point here is you don't have to spend so much money on ghee to make good Indian food. Just use butter. But you can absolutely use ghee if you want. I think I covered most of the questions Adam raised, and I believe these are the general questions anyone who is new to Indian food may have. I hope that was helpful. Alright, now let's start the cooking. I'm using dried chickpeas. Soak them overnight for about 6 to 8 hours. You can use canned chickpeas as well if you want. When you're ready to cook, add some salt and boil these for about 30 to 40 minutes. This time may vary based on how much time you have soaked the chickpeas and also in the intensity of your heat. So just boil them until they are tender. Unlike many Indians, I don't have a pressure cooker. If you have one, use it. Now while the chickpeas are boiling, you can literally make all the other things you need for this Chana Masala. Chop a medium-sized onion, green chilies according to your taste, and 3 tomatoes. Just to give you some rough estimate, this onion weighs about 150 grams and these tomatoes weigh about 290 grams. Usually for most of the Indian gravies, onion to tomato ratio is 1:2. You can chop the tomatoes if you want. I'm going to puree. If you use chopped tomatoes, your cooking time may increase by 10 to 15 minutes and texture will be slightly different. Other than that, there is not going to be any difference taste-wise. Once you're done with the chopping, heat a tablespoon of oil in a pan and few spices go in. 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 4 to 5 cloves, half a teaspoon of carom seeds, and half a teaspoon of dried pomegranate seeds. Warm up the spices for a minute on medium heat and add the chopped onions. Saute with a pinch of salt until they become translucent. Salt pulls out the moisture of onions and that makes the onions cook faster. When the onions become translucent, add the green chilies and saute for a minute. By this time, your onions will be starting to turn brown. At this stage, add the ginger and garlic paste and saute for 4 to 5 minutes until the onions turn brown. Once you add ginger and garlic paste, it's going to stick to the bottom of pan. Whenever that happens, add a splash of water and continue sauteing. There is still a light pinkish hue because these are red onions. If you use white or yellow onions, they are going to be brown. Now the spice powders. A teaspoon of turmeric powder, a tablespoon of coriander powder, and red chili powder according to your taste. You can skip red chili powder if you are not a fan of spice, or you can exclude the green chilies and just add red chili powder. Toast the spice powders for a few seconds on low to medium heat. Then add a tablespoon of tomato paste. It's optional, but this will give rich tomato flavor. And like Adam said, most of the Indian restaurants use just tomato paste or a mix of tomato paste and fresh tomatoes. Cook that for a minute and add the tomato puree along with a cup of water. If you are using fresh tomatoes, add them here instead of puree and cook them on medium heat for 10 to 15 minutes until they are mushy. Now just cook this until you see oil floating on the surface. Or when you do a clean stroke with a spatula, you'll see oil releasing at the boundaries. Now make sure the heat is at low when you're testing this. Add some Aamchur and add the boiled chickpeas. If you are using canned chickpeas, you can add them here directly. And that's it. Just give it a stir and let it simmer for a minute. Finally, taste it and adjust the salt as necessary. A sprinkle of Garam Masala and some freshly chopped coriander leaves or cilantro. And this was absolutely delicious. It took me about 45 minutes to 1 hour to make this. But keep in mind that I had to manage 2 cameras. So you can easily cook this in under 30 minutes or maximum 45 minutes. So I'm really not sure what is so complicated in this. But if you really think this is complicated, it's only because of one reason. Spices, or the number of spices. Because other than spices, there is caramelization of onions, which is not at all a new concept for anyone. And then there is cooking to the right consistency, which is not difficult. So it all comes down to spices. If you are a beginner, start with just 5 spices: Cumin seeds, turmeric powder, coriander powder, red chili powder and garam masala. Follow the same recipe, just use these 5 spices and forget about all the others. And you don't have to buy whole spices to make your own garam masala. Just buy it from an Indian or a Pakistani grocery store. I know many Indians who use store-bought garam masala. It's good, but just buy in small quantities. And once you open the package, transfer the contents into an airtight container, and that will stay good for more than 6 months. But let's just say you bought whole spices after watching Adam's video, and you're not sure where to start. Just make one spice mix using all the spices. It's not practical to make a fresh spice mix whenever you're cooking Indian food, so make a small batch of it. It will stay good for more than a year in an airtight container. Instead of reading out all the spices, I'm going to leave all the spices I'm using on the screen and in the description box as well. Ideally, all these spices are toasted individually based on their size. If you don't want to do that, start the toasting with larger spices and save the smaller ones for the end. Keep moving them continuously. You don't want them to burn. If you burn them, they're going to taste bitter. When you see that change in color, transfer them to a spice grinder and blend. To this spice mix, also add 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder, 2 teaspoons of Aamchur, half a teaspoon of ground mace, you can use fresh mace if you have it, and half a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. If you're wondering about the color difference, I blended the spices in 2 batches. If you're just starting out in Indian food, this will do wonders for you. I'm not giving this any name. This is not a garam masala. This is not a curry powder. This is one spice mix to replace all the whole spices. All you need is this. Once you have this spice mix, all you need to do is heat some oil in a pan, saute onions until they become translucent, add the green chilies and ginger and garlic paste. If you don't cook Indian food that often, you may not have ginger and garlic paste sitting in your fridge. Just grate some ginger and garlic directly into the pan. Caramelize the onions just like before and add the spice mix. How much to add depends on the quantity you're cooking and your spice tolerance. I suggest starting with smaller quantities and increase as per your taste. I say start with 2 teaspoons and add more if necessary. Toast that for a few seconds and add the tomato puree and cook until the oil floats on surface. And everything else is same. Finish it with some butter if you want, and that's it. I'm sure you can see the obvious difference between the two. The one with the spice mix has more darker color, and it was really good. I would say it's really close to the first version. I can clearly tell the difference because I made these two. If it was a blind test, it would be really difficult to pick one out of these two. And this is my version of an easier Chana Masala, and this will definitely blow your mind. I don't want to talk about Adam's easier version because no matter how much you rehydrate those onion, ginger and garlic powders, it's not going to be Chana Masala. It's just a chickpea and tomato stew. I've had some exposure to few Indian restaurant kitchens here in the United States, and sugar has no business in Chana Masala. But that changes with every restaurant, and few states in India do use sugar in curries. So it all comes down to personal preference. I hate sugar in curries. I think hate is a very big word. Let's just say I don't like sugar in curries. You can use it if you want. I really don't care which recipe you follow to cook this Chana Masala. I made this video just to tell you that Indian food is not complicated. Just don't be afraid, it's really not complicated. I'll see you next time. Hi, it's me again. It has been over a week since I filmed all of that. I'm editing this video right now. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a lengthy video. If you're still here, thank you. I just want to reiterate a couple of things and summarize the whole video. I promise I'll do this very fast. First thing, I just disagree with Adam's statement about Indian food. It's not complicated. It's definitely not complicated when compared to many dishes he made in his channel. Then to summarize the whole cooking process in this video, caramelization of onions, spice powders, tomato puree and chickpeas. That's it, 4 steps, nothing complicated in that. And then we talked about spices, whole spices and then 1 spice mix using all the whole spices. And then we talked about 5 spices. That's it. If you're an absolute beginner, just start with 5 spices. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. I'll see you next time.